Welcome back again, listeners. We have the pleasure of being joined by Paul from Budmaster. We're going to be talking again more about LEDs. He's going to tell us about the good, the bad and the ugly of the LED industry. So stay tuned. This one's going to be a good one. Paul, welcome to NPK Live. How are you?
Hi Stephen, I'm good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Enjoying
Not
the
a
show.
problem. It's an honour to have you, because what people won't know is that Paul is very, very scientific in his lighting. And the reason I know this is, one, I've spoken to Paul quite a lot over the years, and also people from the lighting industry also have a lot of respect for Paul. I know that you've spoken with Gavita, who, in my opinion, one of the industry leading in lighting, and I know that they have a lot of respect for you, Paul, and your approach to lighting. So stay tuned for this one. Listen to this one. It's good information coming from Paul. But tell us a little bit about the history of Budmaster, and why did you decide to sort of go on this LED journey?
Well, it's a strange and convoluted history. We were farming. I used to be a computer programmer most of my life, and I switched to farming where I feed pigs. Wanted to grow some crops up on the mountain in Wales where we lived, but it was all just glacial rocks and a little bit of clay, very little soil, so we thought, let's try and grow in the barn. So we did this. We ended up with about 20 HPS lights. It was dangerous. We had some good quality ones, like the Lumitech ones, on the go to make sure it's fine, but it's still a barn, you know. And it's costing us a lot of money, and I like new things, like gadgets, like most men, and I was, flicking around on the internet, I saw these LED light things, started investigating it, ordered my first one, it never arrived, ordered a couple more, broke down in quick succession, and finally found a half decent one from America. We just wanted better, and I didn't want to be buying 20 of these, it's a huge price, so I thought, here's something new for me to do, let's get into this LED lighting. This was about 6 years ago now, so we progressed from buying other people's LEDs from China, finding all the faults and all the problems, and learning about LEDs as we go, to finally designing our own products and having the LEDs made for us in the UK by companies that have been going for almost as long as I've been born, using high quality products like Osram LED and Citizen LED to give real good plant growth and a good end user product.
Something that I think is really important to mention as well about Budmaster is that it's 100% assembled in the UK, and 80% of the components that are used in Budmasters are also from the UK, and the other 20% are components that, if they were to be sourced in the UK, would just make the LED unaffordable. Is that correct, Paul?
That's correct. I mean, the components we still source from China, the power supplies, and we source the fans from Taiwan. And with fans, you're so limited of being able to get a fan anywhere else in the world. I mean, you can get some German fans at very high quality, but extremely high price. And it's the same with the power supplies, trying to get a power supply that does what we want to our LEDs and is also universally acceptable around the world and approved. So it's very difficult to find a combination of these things that we need in Germany or in the UK. And we have tried. There's a good power supply manufacturer in the UK called Harvard Engineering. We've come very close to what we need, but just not quite there. They're very high quality. But with the rest of the components, like the LEDs, these are Osram from Germany. They're put on the board. Light engines are made by a company called Marl International. They've been doing LEDs in the UK since 1970. They've got the domain name leds.co.uk. They've been at it for that long. The lens moulds that we have for the lights to help channel the light penetrate through the canopy, they're made a quarter of a mile away from us in North Wales by a company called A2B Plastic. The heat sinks are made just next door to us in North Wales by a company that make parts for Jaguar and Land Rover. And by doing all of this together, we get a really low carbon footprint, we keep the money in our own country, and we have an eye on quality. We can watch them pouring the material into the plastic moulding machines, and we see it's virgin material. It's exactly as we ask for. The lead time on things is ridiculously small, communication barriers have gone, all the expenses of duties and import, and basically it's given all our money away to another country. It's all cancelled out. So by making it all here, it really is helping the country, us, and the end product, the customer, to get a better quality product. We can give a longer guarantee, and believe it or not, because we've designed it in a good modular build, it's not costing us any more to finish the build in the UK than the Chinese equivalent would have been. And that's just the end of the story. Simple things like the lens moulds, if we order them from China, they come in wrapping and in boxes. It all then has to be unwrapped, thrown away, it takes time, bad for the environment, huge carbon footprint. So by the time we're complete, got the lowest carbon footprint of any horticultural light in the world, I'd imagine.
That's a great achievement to have, and it's just great for the UK and the UK market to have one of the leading LEDs on the whole market across the world is produced in the UK, and I am personally very proud that Budmaster is part of the UK and proud to be a part of the team that helps promote it and sell the product as well. Now, there's 2 questions that I want to ask you, and this is to help our listeners distinguish between good LED companies and bullshit LED companies, the ones that haven't got a great product and think that they can market their way through into sales and ruin the market for LEDs, because everybody knows, whether you're a HPS manufacturer, CFL manufacturer, everybody that's going to be honest will tell you that LEDs are the future. You heard it from Theo before, LEDs are coming and they're coming strong. Now, what we don't want to happen is for the companies that are out to make a quick buck to ruin it for everyone. So let's get to the questions. A lot of LED companies claim that their LEDs can save the grower money. Is that the case, or what's your opinion, Paul? Is this more bullshit?
It's half and half. It's mainly bullshit, to be honest, because you do use less power. So say to replace a 600 watt HPS, you need at least 400-ish watts of LED, at least, no joking about it. You can't do 100 watts, you can't do 200 watts. You're saving a bit of energy, but then you have times when you have to introduce a heater to your grow room, especially in the root zone. We have on the website, we have tips, and one of them is cold roots, small fruits. It's very true. Yeah. Put your hand on your pots and see how it goes, and you might have to introduce some heat, especially when the winter comes. If you're in the UK or if you're in a cold place like Scotland, then you're not saving any money at all. We could argue as an LED company, like, you don't have to buy a bulb. But if you've got a good, every 3 months, say, but if you've got a good ballast and a good bulb, you're only buying a bulb every 6 to 9 months, aren't you? Yeah. And it's not a huge saving over 3 to 5 year life cycle of the LED, the amount of bulbs. It doesn't pay for the LED. But in general, we've worked it out, and the LEDs pay for themselves in about 3 to 5 years, the Osram LEDs. The Chinese LED versions we do, we don't warranty them for as long as they don't last as long. But they do pay for themselves. It's a considerable investment to start with, but it does allow you greater control over your grow room. You could argue that you save a bit of money on nutrients because there's not as much evaporation from your media, if you're growing in soil. It's a negligible amount, it's a selling point, but we don't overhype it. Yeah.
One of the other claims, and I know what your answer is going to be, but I want you to answer it in your particular style. The manufacturers that claim that their 250 watt LED can outperform a 600 watt or 1000 watt HPS, and we're not lying here. There are manufacturers that claim that their 250 watt LED can outperform 1000 watt HPS. Lighting people find it hard to believe, for good reason. What's your take on it, Paul?
Well, use the phrase we've been using, it's bullshit, really, isn't it? Yeah. At the end of the day, we've got a 200 watt Osram LED there. Yeah, it's got loads of power. I could say it's got more power than the HPS, but it doesn't cover the same area. It's not going to outperform it. You'd need the bigger one. There's no LED. We use the best horticultural LEDs in the world. There's no LED in the world that can do that. I mean, there's some other LEDs like cob LEDs. They claim they can do it, but they just don't. Nobody can do it. It's just more over-marketing, hype and bullshit to try and sell LEDs.
Exactly. And we need to be really wary of it. I'm not going to repeat myself, but they're the 2 questions that you should be asking yourself. If it's too good to be true, it basically is. So stick with the LED companies that we have on our show. Stick with Budmaster, and we don't have bad companies on our show. So let's get into the range of Budmaster. You have the XG, the OD and the GOD. So what's the difference between these 3?
Well, the XG is how we started Budmaster too. It's the Chinese LED. Well, they're Taiwanese really, but we all call them the Chinese. Of a company called Epi LED. They're reasonable quality for general use, not horticultural LED. So it's a low-cost LED which can still replace your HPS, but the lifespan of the LEDs and the output and drop over time is very fast compared to a horticultural LED. For example, a household LED or an LED for a car headlight, they'll say this will only drop 10% in 5 years. That's only plan on it being on for half an hour at a time or 2 hours at a time in the car. Now, with the OD and the GOD, the difference of those is that we use the Osram SSL80 family of LEDs specifically designed for horticulture by our favourite people, Osram in Germany, have been doing it for years. Yeah. And they're made in the UK, the boards, the light engines, that's all done here in Cumbria. So we have our finger right on the pulse and right on the quality. The construction of the Osram LEDs and the way they work, even down to the way they're attached to the PCB, they're almost solderless and solder pads underneath them. They're like a work of art. They put out twice as much as the Chinese LED and a bit more for the same power consumption. All the peak wavelengths are spot on, as good as they can get with LED at this point in time, and all the bandwidths are spot on. So instead of, we see a lot of grow lights have 10, 12 bands, you're going to need 4 or 5 bands really to accomplish this if you're using the right LED. So the OD is a UK made one, has 18 Osram LEDs on it. Very shortly we're upgrading that to 19 because Osram have just released an infrared LED at 730, so now we can trust an infrared LED that's not going to blow up. Yeah. So they'll be getting that in the middle of that, and there'll be one going in the middle of each GOD. So that's got 18 in it at the moment. It still outperforms the XG and HPS, but the selling point really is for the extra 25% it costs, from 750 for the XG, say, to 1,000 for the OD. You've got a light which can last you a lot longer, give better performance, use a bit less power, and give better end results. You know, with the GOD, it's the same as the OD, but it's 25 LED in each cluster, so there's just so much more power coming out of it. And that's for people that want a huge amount of light and they don't mind spending a bit more. And the difference to us as a company with these 3 different types is the Osram ones we warranty for 3 years. We would warranty them for a bit longer, but you know, there's things like fans, power supplies, it's electronics, isn't it? With the Osrams, 7 years, they drop 18% in output. So we could happily say to people, these keep going for ages, mate, and they will. That's what they're designed to do. But there's other components which will let it down before the 7 years is up, like the fans or power supplies, it's electronics. And so the difference to the customer is big difference in price, big difference in output and longevity of product. You want a continued yield year after year after year. You don't want your yield to be dropping on a monthly basis. So with the XGs, after a year, we'd say that they drop 20 to 30% in output, depending on whether you've got them in the room with HPSs or you go somewhere hot, just because this is how it works. They're not the best LEDs in the world. They do the job. You know, do the job.
To summarise on the XG, the OD and the GOD, there's an LED for everybody. If you want to have, if you've never really used LEDs before and you want to have a little dabble, so to speak, maybe go with the XG. Still great results, but you're not going to part with too much money to start off with. And if you like the results that you see from these LEDs, then you can maybe step it up to OD.
Or you can upgrade.
You can upgrade?
Yeah, all the parts are interchangeable and they always will be. You can take an XG cluster out, put a GOD one in it, or you put one of the new COB clusters we'll have in it, or one of the new QD clusters in it, and it'll always be like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, if it kills me, it'll always be like that. It's going to be backwards compatible always. So people spend a lot of money on these lights, and then something new comes out, they don't want to feel like left in the dark. Yeah,
that's a fantastic point, and I think you're probably one of the only LED manufacturers that I know of that makes it. Can we call it modular? Can we call it interchangeable?
We call it a modular. It's a good modular system, but it's got a great redundancy model because of the way we. Because I'm from computer program background, so everything's got to be modular and redundancy.
Yeah.
So each cluster, as we call it, each set of LEDs, 25, is run from one power supply. So if anything ever goes wrong with an LED or the power supply, it uses very little part of your light. So grow a new one arrives in the post for the grow within 2 days. They just screw it in themselves. So it's very easy, no electronic knowledge needed. So this then, as we advanced our range, and as we still keep advancing it, everything will always go back into Budmaster in one way or another and be able to do that. And it allows people who buy an XG to buy one GOD cluster and stick it in the middle and get that extra boom.
Yeah. So if you have a little look on the website, you can go onto the Budmaster website or the NPK website. If you want the more technical information, check out the Budmaster website. But I think that's just a fantastic point. It's your unique selling point. If the LED market is going to rapidly change over the next 5 to 10 years, with LEDs dropping in price as they become wider available, and obviously the efficiency of them. Theo was saying earlier that the efficiency of the LEDs is just going up and up and up. Currently, is it correct? We're about 2.4 micromoles on the efficiency.
Yeah, and getting more and more, depending on which brand of LED you're using.
It's going up. He said you'll see it at 2.6, 2.8, 3, 3.2 as better technology becomes available. And what Paul's done and what Budmaster have done is you can buy a GOD, and in 2 years' time, you're not going to then have to go another LED, and in another 2 years, go another LED. What he's done is, you know, it's so simple. It's just a brilliant idea. You buy one GOD, and in 5 years' time, when new technology comes out, it can fit into that same system. That's fantastic. That Paul.
The thing with the LED technology as well is, even though it's getting better and better, with the Osram SSL80 family we use, they're only 1 watt LEDs really. We can push them right up to 2.5, 3 watts without damaging them anywhere near. We don't run them to anywhere near maximum junction temperature. There's never going to be need for any greater LED than that for growing plants. There's different types of LEDs for going in different scenarios, like white ones for people who go with National Trust in terrariums on stairways. You don't want to kill yourself in the pink light tripping down the stairs. Yeah. There's some greenhouses where wildlife might have be impacted by the pink light, need white ones, etc.
Yeah.
But the Allsam family of LEDs for horticulture has been around for quite a while now. It's just nobody's wanted to use them, they're too expensive. And you don't need any better. You don't need any more power than's coming out of the Allsam. You just need to use the LEDs in different ways.
That's some great points. Thank you very much for them, Paul. I'm going to hit you before we finish up with the same question I ask everybody. What's the one tip you give our listeners for a spectacular grow?
Beneficial bacteria, lots of it.
Oh, I like that one. Again, another unique one for this show at Coventry. Beneficial bacteria. Obviously, you use them and you're a big fan of them.
Yeah, we use the Hydroponics, top heavy crop, triple F and Bactivata. It's kick-ass stuff.
It's absolutely kick-ass, potent. Take it home, use it.
No problem with your pH.
100% organic, and I think I wouldn't be wrong in saying those three products are the absolute flagship of that, and that comes from the Hydrotops range. Top heavy crop if you're in for a veg booster, an organic veg booster with bacteria. Bactivata, which you would use all the way through, prevents Pythium, prevents spider mite, and also the triple F, which is fully formed flowers. Use it in flowering, and oh my word, you can see the results.
Incredible difference in results. Yeah. And you can use it with any other nutrient range because it doesn't put the EC up as well. So
exactly.
We used to sell a lot of that in the shop, yeah.
Top tip. Thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been a pleasure, Steve.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Right, catch up with you later.
Bye-bye.